Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Qdabra webinar. My name is Jimmy, and I will be your presenter for today. Today, we are talking about the ability to use FormsViewer offline, basically for situations where you need to use a FormsViewer without internet connectivity. Just to go over today's agenda. First, I'm going to talk about the kind of scenario where this would come into play. I'll talk about how this feature works, how it sort of fits together, some of the new FormsViewer features that enable this functionality, a bit of information about the settings involved, and then a couple of demos. So what's this offline mode about? Well, this is something that's come up a number of times in the past. People have talked about wanting to be able to do this, but you can imagine that you have forms that people need to fill out when they don't have good internet connectivity or if they don't have any at all. So as of the next version of FormsViewer that's coming out, FormsViewer can be installed on individual desktop machines, individual laptops, or whatever. And it has functionality for reading and writing to the local file system. So form data can be saved out to a local drive, and then it can be loaded back into the form. And through this, it allows people to fill out the forms, save their data, and then when they have connectivity again, they can save it up to some central location, such as SharePoint or DBXL. What this enables is some seamless form filling. People can fill out their forms offline and then sync back to a central repository once they have their internet connectivity again. So let's look at what that setup kind of looks. And I'm having trouble. Okay, it looks like we have somebody in the waiting room. Misty is helping her. All right, I'm having trouble moving to the next page. Just bear with me now. Okay, here we go. All right, so how this fits together is fairly simple. So basically, the person has FormsViewer installed on their local PC. If they're going to be offline, typically that would be a laptop. And the forms have functionality to save and load from a local hard drive. Then once they have connectivity again, they can sync their data up to a DBXL or SharePoint or whatever you might have. Okay, so there are a couple of new features in FormsViewer that enable this. First of all, there's the ability to load a local document directly into a form. You may be familiar with the document parameter, the document URL parameter. It's used in SharePoint to load a document directly from a library. With this new version of FormsViewer, you can also use that in this. If you have this offline mode configured, you can use it to load a local file into FormsViewer, into your form. We've made a couple of changes to the QRules commands to also enable this scenario. There's a new command called submit to network, which basically you can save out the contents of a data source to a local file. This is analogous to submit to DBXL or submit to SharePoint. There's also a list directory command that allows you to list the contents of a local folder and use them to populate a data source so that the contents of that directory can be displayed, or there can be some logic that deals with those files. There's also get network file, which allows you to load a file into a data source. So that's the opposite of submit to network. And then make request is a command we've had for a while, but we've added a new timeout parameter. And where that comes into play here is that you can use that command to check whether you have connectivity to a particular URL. And if you don't, you can have some form logic that reacts to that. The timeout parameter allows you to limit how long the form should wait, just so you don't have it just hanging indefinitely. And of course, that timeout parameter may have some usefulness outside of this scenario as well. Now, because you don't want FormsViewer just being able to access anything on the local drive, we've added features to first indicate whether it should be able to access the local file system at all. And then after that, indicate which locations it's able to access. So unless you specifically tell it you want it to be able to write and read from a certain folder, it won't be able to. So you can see in our example here that we've set it to enable local access to the local file system, and we've indicated 2 folders that it should be able to access. So it can basically access anything within those folders and subfolders and whatnot. And also you can see it allows specifying whether it should have read access or write access to the folder. In the case of this first form files folder, we're only allowing read access. Okay, so the main impetus for us finally adding these features was our customer who have graciously given us permission to show their form here in this webinar. But basically, they have a form. They deal with robots for building and repairing things, and they have people who go out in the field to customer sites and inspect those robots and fill out reports. Now, sometimes those sites might not have good internet connectivity, but they still need to be able to fill out the reports. So what this enables them to do is fill out the reports on their own workstation, then come back to their hotel room or whatever and upload their changes. So let's have a look at how that works. Oops. Okay. So what I've added here is basically a link on my desktop that will take me directly into the dashboard for that form. Okay, so we see a couple of things here. This is a dashboard form that they had already had. We've added some modifications to it. So the way their data is organized is first they've got a customer and then a robot type and then a serial number. None in that serial number. All right, so basically they've got a list of reports. This is currently querying these reports from DBXL. So what they would do here is they'll go in here. And basically the way they use these reports is there's basically a lineage where when they need to fill out a new report, they'll basically take the most recent report for that robot and make a new report from it, so which has all that data. And then they fill that out from there. So until now they've had these 2 buttons where they can either make changes to an existing report or make a new one from an existing one. Now we've added these offline features which allow them to either save a copy to their local drive, or they can make a new copy, a new version from the report. So let's go with the save locally. So all I do is click here and it says the report has been saved locally. Please access it from the offline documents tab. Okay, and I'm going to click close form and that'll take me back to my dashboard. Now I can take a look over here The first thing to notice is that the form uses some config data, which is an XML file that it queries from DBXL. But if they're going to be offline, they won't have access to that. So what we've added is anytime they open that main form, it's going to save down the config file, the latest config data, so that it can load from there instead of from DBXL. And you can see the modified date here is 2 minutes ago, so it was saved down a moment ago. In reports, we can see we're using a directory hierarchical structure. And you can see here again, we have a file that was modified just 1 minute ago, which I saved out. Okay, so this is, that's basically the preparation they do ahead of time, because they need connectivity in order to get the copy of the report before they go offline. So let's imagine they've done that. Now they're going to be offline at a customer site. Now to simulate this, I'm using a firewall rule, which basically blocks the connectivity to our DBXL instance. So I'm going to enable that. And then I'm going to close out these dashboards and open them again. And what the dashboard does is it uses that make request command to check whether it can access the DBXL URL. And if not, it sort of goes into offline mode where it hides those lists of files from DBXL and only shows what's basically a file browser of that the reports folder. Now, as I said, currently the files are organized hierarchically from customer to robot type, and then the individual, and then robot serial number and the reports for that serial number. So let's have a look at that. We're going to go down to the customer, and then to the robot type, and then to the serial number, and we see we have a list of all the files that have been saved out. I've got the file names and the last modified dates, and this one is moments ago. And we've got it in UTC time here because people are in different time zones. We want everything sort of meshing well. So UTC, while people are not necessarily familiar with it, it's easier to get everyone on the same page. If your people are all in the same time zone, you don't have to do that. It's just the way I've gone about it. Okay, so, all right, so I've browsed my files. I found the one I want to modify. Now I can open it from that local file. Putting up. All right, and here you can see there's that document parameter, which is showing that it's on the D drive, arrow offline files reports, and then that file name. So it's loading that file directly from my local drive. Let's just change a couple of values here. 3, save changes. Okay. All right, so I've modified my report. If we come back here, we can open it up again. Okay, and you can see that my changes are saved. All right, so let's imagine they finished filling out the report at their customer site. Now they're back at home or back at their hotel room, and they have internet connectivity. They need to sync it back up to the central server. So what I'm going to do is going to turn that firewall off. Turn it off. Okay, let's open that report again. Okay, and here, rather not the report, but the dashboard. Okay, and now here the dashboard is again detecting that I'm offline. So it's showing the filters for the online documents. And now it has this offline reports button to go to that file browser. So let's have a look at that. Now there's one difference here that we've implemented when it's an online mode, which is that wrong folder, which is that when it's online, they get this sync button here. So they can sync up any document of their choosing back up to the server. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click sync here. And what we see here is it gives us some information about what we're syncing. It gives us the time we synced it down, which was, let's see, is this right? Yeah, so it's 6 minutes ago, 15:15 UTC. It was modified 2 minutes ago by me. And the online copy of the document, you can see it was last modified quite some time ago, 4/26. And it was modified by me under a different username. Okay, so everything's good to go. It can see that the last sync time is after the last online modification. If it's not, then it will basically detect that there is a conflict and give me either the option to overwrite the copy on the server or to just cancel out and resolve it some other way. So we're all good to go here. I'll click upload. All right, so the sync succeeded. It gives me a link where I can open the online copy of the document, and then they can go in there and perform their final submit on the data. Or I can just go back to the list. So that's about it for this this scenario. Actually, let's just show what it looks like. So I'm going to go to these online reports. Okay, there's my report. You can see that the date time is updated. This is showing in Pacific time, and you can open it up from here. It's opening from DBXL. You can see that because it's now using a doc ID to open the document. And you go in here. And we can see that my changes here are indeed in effect. So that's it for this form, sort of an end-to-end view of how this kind of functionality works. Now, Hillary has also worked up a sort of a more generic dashboard form for syncing files to a central location. So we're going to transfer the mic over to her, and she can take it away.
Hey everybody, so let me, I am thinking, Jimmy, you might have to stop screen sharing for me to start.
Okay. I have stopped.
Okay, we might need to have you make me a presenter. Or maybe
okay.
I can make me a presenter. I can do it.
All right.
I have the power. All right, great to see everybody. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. Yes. Okay. So what I've put together is, and you can get a copy of this with the rest of the webinar materials, the slides and whatever, is a little generic dashboard that you could use with SharePoint kind of straight out the gate. This is what the configuration for it looks like. I'm saving this configuration down locally on the local file system. It's just a few simple questions, you know, where are the network files? Where's the SharePoint site and library? Where do you want to save this configuration? And then I'm also getting information about the local URL for the target template and the server URL for the target template, so for the templates that will be used by this dashboard. Once it is filled out and saved, you can open it using that document parameter that Jimmy mentioned. If I can just get to the end of that, you can see I'm using a document parameter here, and it's picking up this configuration from my local files. Okay, so that's where I'm grabbing this from. because I'm using SharePoint, it seemed like maybe a firewall rule wasn't going to be that simple for purposes of demo. So I just kept an online offline toggle here on the form, but it does have logic to determine if the user is on or offline. It's just if I go offline, I can't be in this meeting. So I've kept it like this for now. When the dashboard is offline, it shows everything from my local file system only. So here's my local file system files. The new button opens up the local version of the template, which is published here to which is uploaded on my local Forms viewer. If I was online, the new button would open up the online version of the template. The links to these are to my local files, and if I am offline and I open it and submit, it updates the local file, and so we can see whichever one this was. There we go, was just updated. If I'm online, it shows me all of my files, and it shows me the items from my library here, as well as from my local file system in one view. And it gives me a little more information. For example, this one is showing me that the SharePoint one is newer than the one in my local file system by a minute in case I want to overwrite it. These are shown as pairs, right? Here's my local, here's my SharePoint file. And I have options here. I can upload my local to SharePoint. I can download my SharePoint locally. So if I wanted to upload my local file, click the button hard enough, right? And then when the dashboard refreshes, you'll see that now the SharePoint one is newer than my local file because I just uploaded that to SharePoint. I can download from SharePoint to my local file system just as easily. And easy peasy, I can click a link to open one. Again, this one's going to open up in my online template, which I did not update the fonts on, which is useful because my offline template I had. So if we open up this guy, he's my offline template. And so really very simple, but just a quick little dashboard to allow you to easily give this a try if you'd like to, using with SharePoint and your local file system and being able to see all of your files in one place and being able to easily configure it for your environment instead of having to do a bunch of custom development just to get rolling. This should give you something that you can try in an easy manner instead of having to do a ton of setup. And that's what we wanted to make sure we had for you after this webinar. So I think that's all I have got, and I will stop sharing and hand things back over to Jenny.
Thank you very much. It looks like now my screen sharing button is disabled. So
this is such fun, is it? Can you?
Okay. Okay. We actually have a poll for you all, just to figure out how many of you are actually using FormsViewer, and you know what FormsViewer is. So let's just launch that poll now. Okay, we got 5, looks like 4 votes, of which 3 are currently using FormsViewer. Okay, thank you for that. If you're interested in doing something like that, please let us know. We are available at support@qdabra.com. I think that's what opens up. Yep, support@qdabra.com. We'll be happy to discuss your scenario with you and figure out how to make it work. Just a bit more about Qdabra Forms, also known as FormsViewer. It's the lowest cost way to get off of InfoPath and keep your investment going. It's the only as-is migration path for InfoPath. Very little effort to get things working in FormsViewer. You can future-proof your existing Forms investment, all the time you spent putting those together. You can just keep using them. We support list forms, modern UI, theme sites, all sorts of great things. You get new features, a mobile view support, modern technology. You can SMS, face recognition, any kind of JSON-based APIs. You can use those from FormsViewer. You can customize the forms to your business needs. We've got great support, always ready, looking forward to hearing from you. And it's currently available in the SharePoint store if you are using SharePoint. So that is it for today's presentation. Let's just see if there are any questions.
So, Jimmy, I just wanted to make sure that I was clear on this. To use this new functionality, I have to have FormsViewer installed locally, but I don't necessarily need to be using FormsViewer on-prem for my main FormsViewer instance, right? I could be a FormsViewer online customer and then have users who need this offline capability set up with FormsViewer on-prem on their local machines.
Yeah, strictly speaking, you don't even need to really have, it's not strictly necessarily have a central copy of FormsViewer at all. Everybody could just have their own local instances. So yeah, that works as well. Yeah.
And they can just install it on a Windows 11 machine, no big deal, right? The requirements would be what, SQL Express and Windows 11, Windows 10.
Yep. Basically, Windows 10, 11, pretty much any recent version of Windows would work.
Wonderful. Thank you for that additional information.
Okay. All right, looks like we don't have any other questions, so we're going to thank you all for coming. We hope to see you in the next webinar.
Have a great
Bye,
day,
everybody.
everybody. Bye. Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you.